the president, everything about this is a farce. There was no insurrection. Is that clear? The officer was not killed by any blunt object, let alone a fire extinguisher. People spectacularly, foolishly, and in some cases just brazenly and immorally entered the Capitol. I condemned it the moment I heard about it. I have a recording of it because that's when that happened as my show was ending, and my promo was a angry condemnation of the idiocy of what had happened. Republicans all condemned it within the hour. It took Joe Biden 4 or 5 days to condemn far greater, far more damaging riots that occurred this past year, last year. But none of this matters because when you have all the media virtually saying what you want, then it's fine. Did you hear the press conference where she was asked some questions and just didn't respond? And they don't badger her. You don't badger a Democratic press secretary. When I compare this to the previous press conferences, Sarah Huckabee wants to run for governor, correct? She's running in Arkansas?
Yeah.
I got to like her. There is I did a fireside chat with her.
Yeah.
You can see that at PragerU. Last week's fireside chat was on, I've done now 175, I think it is, fireside chats. Haven't missed a week in 175 weeks. Because if I know I'm going to go abroad, I will do them in advance. So there's no week without a fireside chat. And I believe everyone is really important. You could pick any number and it'll be relevant. But last week's, not this week's, last week's, I would put in the top 5 in importance. I spoke to you about it, and I want to remind you of it. Given how profoundly flawed human nature is, the achievement of creating the United States of America was astounding. The left allows the awfulness of human nature to express itself and destroy what is good. When you know how flawed human nature is, you really, really appreciate any good that happens to you personally and to society on a societal level. The accomplishment of making America was astounding. I don't marvel at the fact that they were bad Americans or that American leaders had slaves. These are not aberrations. Bad is not an aberration. Corruption is not an aberration. Lack of freedom is not an aberration. Freedom is an aberration. Abolition of slavery is an aberration. Get it? The left wants us to be like everybody else. The idea of America being exceptional is I love the word, it's risible to the left, which is a nice word for laughable. The ideal is Denmark, except if they actually followed Denmark, they would know that the Prime Minister of Denmark, a social democrat, has just announced she wants no more immigrants into the country because they, in fact, do not become Danish, do not assimilate into Denmark, and are disproportionately involved in rape and other violent crimes. What do you say to that? By the way, here's a good one for you. Was that reported in the New York Times? I mentioned last hour that the New York Times reported that the officer, Siklik, was killed by a blunt object. Sicknick, sorry. And they wrote, according to two officers in their column. The issue is not, did they say according to officers? The issue is, did they give as much prominence to the fact that it never happened as they did to the allegation that it did? What do you think the answer is? I'll leave it at that. Yes, indeed, my friends. Impeachment of the president. You know how many Democrats should be impeached? If incendiary talk leads to incendiary actions, the number of Democrats who should be impeached would keep the Senate busy. How do you impeach a senator? Can you impeach a senator? Has anyone ever been impeached? It says your colleagues have to impeach you. Was there a threat to impeach Joe McCarthy? Was that an issue?